Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 273. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, it's spooky season.
Yes, it's October. It's October 2nd as we record this episode.
I'd like to make a request.
Oh, yes.
When Connor's not here while it's spooky season, can you put a picture of Michael Myers there? They're both equally as soulless with eyes dark as the devil's.
I mean, there's a logic there. I can't deny. It may be a more cheery conversation coming from Myers.
Right? Just
yes.
breathing.
It's spooky season. I already got a couple of horror movies in last night.
Ooh.
Not. I mean, one was The Island of Dr. Moreau, which was somehow
the Richard Spencer one. Well, he was supposed to do.
There's Marlon Brando's in it with thingy, David Lewis and Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer, Fairuza Balk as the cat girl.
It's somehow batshit insane, but also really dull at the same time, and it's really quite impressive just how
when it's not spooky season and you have time, there's a fantastic documentary.
I've heard
about
of this.
With Richard Spencer in it. He talks about doing black magic to curse the set. And also gave me one of my all-time favorite quotes, where he goes, "Everything was going swimmingly until I met Val Kilmer." So it's a fantastic documentary about that. I forget the guy that took it over. Just kind of came in and did a workman cut. Was trying to wrangle Marlon Brando. It got to the point that Brando would only come to set if Val Kilmer wasn't there, and Val Kilmer said he'd only go to set if Brando was there. So they didn't get a whole lot done. So can you imagine trying to piece that movie together?
I mean, the end result certainly goes along with all these stories. I'll say that much. Not a delightful time. I also watched a movie called Pledge Night, which was fun in the end. It's a really weird structured movie. It's like 42 minutes of like pledges at a fraternity getting just tortured during Hell Week. Right? And it's like 42 minutes, and there's not even a hint that there's a killer, or that there's going to be a killer. And then all of a sudden, at the 42-minute mark, the killer shows up, and from that point on, the murders happen like once every 3 minutes. Like, it is just constant from that point on.
Is it fun, though, or is it tedious?
It's mostly, I'd say it's mostly fun. There's a couple of, pacing lulls here or there, but...
Because I got really excited for, what was it? Was it Hellfest? The one that was set in a theme park?
Oh yeah, that was just okay.
Yeah, and those kills were just kind of, and the killer wasn't that charismatic. Just kind of going around in a black mask.
No, this is more, well, it's just, there's two different types of killer in it, but one's kind of like bad actor, maniacally laughing, so that's funny.
Yeah. Thanks to a friend this week, and it came at the right time. I went to a concert last week with a friend, and so we've been talking music. And he goes, "Have you ever listened to Ice Nine Kills?" And I was like, "I've heard of them, but the name kind of put me off." And he goes, "Oh, they have a whole album that's about horror movies. So each one of the songs is based around a different horror movie, and it's fantastic. Like it's silly metalcore, screamy type stuff. So if you don't like that, but like, there's a song about Jaws." There's a song. There's a Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare. But there's a Silent Night, Deadly Night one that sounds like a Christmas song. And it's made me want to finally watch it, but I don't know if I'm going to watch it now or wait till closer to the holiday season.
I'd say Christmas. I'd say Christmas horror belongs in December, not in October.
Yeah, true.
That's my stance on that.
So I'll probably get to it finally, and maybe watch the original Black Christmas while I'm at it, because I've seen the remake and that was okay.
Which remake?
Black Christmas.
No, which remake? There's two remakes.
Oh, the most recent one.
Okay.
the one with an amorphous villain that was kind of like, oh, this is not what I signed up for. I wanted a guy.
The plot's very different than the original to that one.
I forgot there was the one with Lacey Chabert, which is more traditional remake. That one's not too good, right?
Also Michelle Trachtenberg, who you might know from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Also, Mary Elizabeth Winstead's in that. I think. What's the phrase from Arrow? I think was in it as well. I could be wrong.
Well, hot damn. You had me at Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I know.
No, watch the original. The original's much better. It's terrible.
I can watch both if it's streaming. I'm not going to seek it out, but if it's streaming, you know.
Matt's been lured down my eye candy.
I am a the original's on Peacock, and the other remake's not available. So maybe it's doing me a favor.
Fate stepped in.
By the way, I watched the Nightmare on Elm Street remake this week. And, oh boy. I did not realize that it would make me go, this needs more Katie Cassidy. Never thought I'd say that. But yet, here we were.
That's a nightmarish thing to say.
Yeah, right? There's not even anybody yelling bloodlust. I didn't know what to do.
That movie's just...
There's some elements that I appreciated them trying, but it just wasn't like... If you don't have Robert Englund as Freddy, you're not doing it. You know? That's just where we're at. I rewatched Freddy v. Jason also this week, and that movie gets better each time you watch it. It's the movie equivalent of candy. Like I shouldn't eat this whole bag of jumbo-sized M&Ms, but I'm gonna do it. As so. But yeah, the Nightmare remake, not so good.
No, it's pretty dire. It's one of the worst of the remakes of that era.
Yeah, I had a small conversation with a friend that I much rather watch, as much as I dislike it, Rob Zombie's Halloween again, because at least he cares about the character of Michael Myers. Even if we don't.
He doesn't understand the character of Michael Myers.
No, but you could tell that he cares because he's trying something more than Sam Bayer did with anything in Nightmare.
Rob Zombie's Halloween upsets me way more than the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake is just really bad and boring.
Yeah. Well, Halloween's your franchise. So I get it upsetting you, but from my perspective, I can at least appreciate him trying something versus just this, boring bad.
Yeah, but I've only had one day to watch horror movies. I should have watched at least a few more by next week, so I'll keep everyone appraised of the weird oddities that because I'm trying to watch movies. I'm sure I'll see a few that I've seen before, but generally speaking, in October I like to try and find weirder stuff.
But you're at this point that I won't reach for a very long time, where you've seen all of the good classic stuff, so you really have to sift through. You're like a prospector that's hit the vein, and now you're just looking for gold dust. You and Tim both. I saw Tim put a stack of movies he picked up, and I didn't recognize any of them. This is all stuff that he bought.
I'd say I knew about 2/3 of them, and I've seen about 1/3 of them. That was probably what I'd say I knew of that stack.
So it's a lot harder for you to find this stuff. That said, you did watch *Malignant*, and
I did. We reviewed it on Screams After Midnight, which came back yesterday.
Just a real quick one-word reaction.
One word?
Yeah.
Oh, one word's tough.
Yeah. I guess that's the reaction right there. One word? Yeah, that's tough.
I feel like I need at least a sentence to emphasize that worth seeing for the crazy final 20 minutes, but very, 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 very boring before that.
Yeah. It's as I told a friend, you won't be sorry you watched it, but you're definitely gonna be like, what the hell did I watch?
Yes.
So yeah. It's very rare that I've seen a horror movie before you did. That's why I was shaking a little bit,
I just because I was waiting until we were going to review it, so I didn't rush out. Because there's very few movies that I want to watch a second time that quickly after I've seen it the first time.
Yeah.
And especially when it's movies for Screams or Sacred Hockey Mask, because most new horror movies, a lot of them suck. Never mind. And even the good ones, I don't necessarily want to rewatch a good movie right away. A movie has to be really special for me to want to rewatch it immediately. So, I'll wait until it's review time. Unless I'm just that excited about something that I have to see it right away.
Right.
But
yeah.
But yeah, *Malignant* wasn't quite that. So hey, This is a DC Comics podcast, believe it or not. I imagine horror movie tangent to start things off is probably going to be a consistent feature for the next 4 weeks, I suspect. But well, yes, this is a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about the books we read this week. Coming up on this week's show, we have Detective Comics 1043, Action Comics 1035, Superman Son of Kal-El issue 3, Justice League 68, Checkmate issue 4, and what I like to call the Matt Talks Bendis portion of the show.
It's gonna go well with a little, like when you go to a restaurant and they give you garlic bread, and that garlic bread's better than the meal sometimes. That's what Ram V is for Justice League and Checkmate sandwich.
We also have Robin issue 6, Deathstroke Inc. issue 1 is a new book to check out, and then I've got a couple of Patreon books of September to sort of squeeze back in and catch up on, and that is American Vampire Survival, The Fittest issue 2, and Animal Man issue 12. So that is what's coming up on today's show. But do not fear, everyone. I have not forgotten. There's always time for the ComiXology Top 10 to get things moving on the show. So that is what we'll start with. Not an amazing week for DC as far as ComiXology sales as of Saturday afternoon this week, but hey, Marvel did take the top spot with Inferno issue 1, which is issue 1 of 4. It's an X-Men book.
Wow, they're running that back, huh?
I guess, yeah. They're doing a new Inferno thing. I don't really know anything about it. I just know there was a story arc called Inferno from like the 90s.
Yeah. Well, something about hell coming to Earth, and I know Kitty Pryde was a big part of it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not coming up on here. I'm looking at League of Comic Geeks, and I don't see. Oh, there it is. Weird.
I mean, and keep in mind, it's always possible that just because it's on the charts this week doesn't mean it came out this week. Sometimes things will just sell.
No,
good,
true.
For more than 1 week.
This one did.
Yeah.
This came out this week. I'm seeing if this is a Dugan. No, it's Hickman. Okay, well, tells me all I need to know. The culmination of Hickman's X-Men begins here. So I guess it's not really Inferno, but it is wrapping up his kind of X-Men sideways, whatever he's been doing.
Yeah, and then number 2 is Die issue 20. I'm sure Connor's like smiling somewhere. He feels it in his bones that his beloved book is doing well and it's now over. It's the big climatic issue. Issue 3 is Amazing Spider-Man issue 74. Number 4 is Sword issue 8. And then number 5 is Star Wars issue 17. So that's 4 Marvel and an Image book in the top 5 there. So
Image makes sense. Inferno being the big event makes sense. Yeah, Star Wars a little bit, but weird that Sword's so high.
I know people are into it. Number 6 is Detective Comics. Number 7 is Justice League. Number 8 is Thor 17. Number 9 is Superman Son of Kal-El. Number 10 is Wolverine. And then just missing the top 10 is Action Comics, Robin, and Superman 78, all right after that. So, I mean, it's not like completely dire, but definitely a more Marvel-dominated top 10 this week. But it's kind of weird to me. Now, obviously, Batman's quite good right now anyway, so it's not really that much of a complaint. But it does kind of feel that Batman always outsells Detective just because it's called Batman. It's like some people just buy it because of the name. It's weird. Right. That's weird. I don't.
I mean, Batman's mid, so I'll take tech every day.
You're just saying that because I used that against something you said.
Yeah, and it worked, and then you got me back when I had no response. So yeah,
Well, that's ComiXology top 10, nice and quick. It's not painful. This isn't like last week where there was such a tangent that was brought on between you and Connor that the time between numbers 8 and 9 was like 25 minutes.
Yeah, well, we have that ability.
No news this week, really. Certainly nothing. The only thing of note I would say is that there's some advertising interviews going on for the new Tom King book. The what do we call it? Human Target. Saying it's going to be a 12-issue whodunit. So, sounds like fun.
I'm there. I mean, we just read a kind of a 12-issue whodunit from King, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I expect this will be a much lighter and tone book versus Rorschach.
Tom King goes, sure. I do light work.
I mean, it'll appear light, and then it'll.
I don't make you question your beliefs while reading my comics at all. Tom King. At least, this is what I like, that he has found his niche, and these 12-issue maxi series are almost like novels, right? Like he has a point of view that's going to run through, and to me, I feel it fits his style better than the monthly. I don't want to call it a slog, but you know what I mean.
I get you. I mean, no, it's just been working for him. We've been saying this basically ever since he just sort of switched to doing these types of books.
Yeah.
So, no, it's cool. And it does feel like it's kind of exciting. But once we get halfway through Human Target, we're probably going to expect another announcement of whatever the next thing is. Because it seems to have about, 3 overlapping at any one time. So, given that Human Target is kind of replacing both Rorschach and Strange Adventures, you imagine that something will replace Supergirl at some point. Before Human Target's done. So.
Well, and Batcat's about half over too.
Yeah.
So...
it's kind of weird though, because I feel like that was just delayed. So I mean, I feel like he wrote that probably ages ago.
Probably, but I'm saying, half out.
He probably wrote all of that before he even started working on Supergirl or maybe even Strange Adventures. He might have just done it all already, like over a year ago.
Maybe.
But alright, let's look at the book side. I don't need to dilly-dally this week. So, Detective Comics 1043, Mariko Tamaki writing with Dan Mora back on the art. Obviously, Bogdanovich was the alternative. And this is a start of a 3-part Fear State tie-in, which revolves heavily around Mayor Nakano. So this is kind of set around everything going on. Some of this is set a little bit before things go down. And we start off the book with a pair of drivers who actually work for the magistrate, but they're not like soldiers or anything. They work for the sanitation services.
Yeah, they're like contractors. Like they're driving around their van.
Basically, one of them tells a story to the other one about ants and fungus, and the fungus growing out of the ant's head. And all I could think was, okay, so as we read this story, there's going to be a character who that this ant represents, and like this is clearly this is a thematic setup for whatever this arc is.
Yeah, but I also read it as this is also how Fear State works, right? It's also their perspective on, that it infects one thing, and then that thing goes all the way to the top just to rain back down, So I thought it also fit into the narrative that's going on there with the magistrate and the scarecrow.
I feel like it's probably related to Nakano himself. He's trying to do all this stuff, getting too close to the sun, but then he's going to fall and just sort of become part of the problem when he hits the ground, effectively.
He really, last page reveal, really hits the ground into some muck. But we'll get there.
Yeah, so once it actually gets going proper, though, we have Simon Saint and Mayor Nakano having a meeting, and things aren't as hunky-dory between them as maybe like we've assumed in the past. There's a lot of hesitation about letting the magistrate program kind of take control. And Nakano's actually still doubting things, sees that Saint's made some mistakes, and it's a bit more touch and go than originally perceived.
Have you noticed this over as Fair State gets going and Scarecrow is more of the central figure, that all the creatives are kind of making Saint look a lot more sniveling and like less sure.
A lot more desperate.
When we first met him,
a lot more desperate for sure.
Yeah, like he's and we've seen him wet himself in Batman, and in here he's kind of a stumbling on his words to Nakano and not quite sure of himself as he was, as his plan's not going. And I like that character piece.
I also feel like this issue might have tried to make us sympathize with Nakano and see him as not a, because he's been such an antagonist to a lot of our main characters that. Just something as simple as him having this conversation with his wife, presumably on the phone, where like she's like, hey, you're putting all this on you. He's clearly stressed. He's trying to make the right choices. I mean, obviously, it's trying to build sympathy because he's going to be in jeopardy for the rest of the issue and presumably the whole arc. But
right.
It definitely feels like this is the most humanizing of Nakano we've had up until this point.
You know, mind you, I wasn't familiar with Nakano until Tamaki when I started reading Tech again. However, I've never felt that like the antagonism was anything more than, you know, the typical Gotham antagonism with Batman, right? Like he's doing the job of the cops, and that's not good for us, you know. So I felt like with Fear State, they're kind of leaning on him a little bit more antagonistic. So I like this regression back to, you know, he's just trying to do what's best for the city.
I think it makes him slightly more three-dimensional, because before he was very much like a plot obstacle for Batman and some of the other characters. He was a reason that was sort of going to lead to Simon Saint getting into some power and getting these magistrate program going. This is clearly making an effort to try and give him a bit more of a character, and we see him kind of survive on his own, because this gunman comes to his office and starts shooting at him. And we see that he's able to dive behind his desk. He pulls a gun out. He tries to fight back. He jumps through the window. You know, there's a lot of stuff going. And the book does a really good job here of like sort of building the chaos where all the security are kind of going frantically. What the hell's going on? Who's shooting shots in the mayor's office? And they're all scrambling. But there's a team of guards who are actually there with the shooter to kidnap Nakano. Batman shows up though. Great 2-page spread in the rain of him smashing down one of the guys. But they still get away with Nakano. Batman gives chase. A lot of this issue is this chase sequence. You got Batman on the bike, using his grapple gun to completely flip over the van that's taking Nakano. Lots of gunshots, all this stuff. Saint's freaking out because like his security's outside the building and this still happens, so it's making him look like a fool. All this stuff. Very delightful, but between some explosions, between I think it's the bad guy who was kidnapping Nakano has a grenade. They end up going down, and we know that the sewer system or the subway system is flooded right now. The old tunnels are flooded.
Right.
But they actually go beyond that into even more tunnels, and Nakano even has kind of a meta line where he's like, how many tunnels can this city have? It's a goddamn labyrinth. So he's down there with his phone, and Batman are both kind of like stumbling around, looking for each other. And Batman is trying to like talk to Oracle and whoever else, but like he's not really getting through to anyone. But the end of the issue is that Nakano runs into some, what would you call this?
They're like egg bundles or
like egg sacs or I was trying to think. Is larva? Is this? You wouldn't use larva to describe this,
I mean,
would you?
they could be. Yeah. I mean, but if we're comparing them to insects, there's a pupal stage. You have an egg, pupa, larva, and then fully grown. So this still seems like they're in that phase. So, but I was not ready to see the Vile thread line come back so soon.
Yeah, this feels connected to that, and it also feels like and even if it isn't, it's still kind of keeping the vibe that like at least some of Tamaki's detective run is kind of monster themed, and we're going to have Batman and Nakano like trapped in these dark tunnels with monsters. Like there's definitely fun to be had here. Now, admittedly, from a shared universe perspective, how do we justify whatever this is going to be like of Batman stuck in tunnels when Fear State's supposed to be going on, given all the stuff he's doing in Batman? Let's not try and think about it. Let's just go with it. Just roll with it.
I always call that the Wolverine corollary of continuity. At one point, Wolverine was featured in like 8 books, and if you were trying to piece together how he was being 3 X books, 2 Avengers, and his own solo series, you were just gonna drive yourself insane. So
it's not possible. Yeah. And that's the end of the main story. I mean, it's mostly once you hit the shooter, it's just one big action sequence to the end, basically.
Yeah, and this group that tried to kill Nakano said that the guy there said his name is Nero 19. So it seems like it's another either like a criminal group that's getting together, under the nose of the magistrate, or. I try to find any significance to that, and can't. Like, it made me think of Maxie Zeus, right? Who was a Batman character that but that was Greek, not Roman.
Part of me was wondering though if this is like kind of a red herring, and this is all just like, I mean, this could just be Scarecrow trying to drum up more fear by hiring a team to kill the mayor, because that would just send the city into even more chaos. Like, the mayor's been assassinated, right. That would be a pretty big, like, chaos. Things are happening. So, main story is good. Yeah, it's very tight. I mean, I like the sense of like frantic chaos that happens when everything starts going down. The way the security and Saints start panicking, it's like, wait, how did this happen? How is this possible? You really feel the urgency in the moment, because I think Tamaki's really good at giving that sense. Obviously, the art helps out a lot as well, but the pacing and how it jumps around the characters really sells the idea of like this sort of shock occurrence happening.
And on the background side of the coloring too, a lot of the first half of the book is very red until they get into the sewers and the grenade goes off, and then it cools down to blues and stuff. And I thought that was a nice creative choice, because it makes everything seem that much more chaotic and full of danger. So it's a nice little touch for the storytelling.
Yeah, and I think obviously, I mean, how much this continues throughout the arc is questionable, but it's humanizing the Cano a little bit more and giving him a bit more of a protagonist role in this story is a fantastic addition for the other Batman books. Well, at least the main book anyway. Like, all of a sudden, like, if you're reading that and the Cano pops up now, you have an extra layer to him, an extra facet that feels informed by what you've read in this. So they're complementing each other quite well right now. So what are you giving the main story?
I'm gonna give this one an 8. I thoroughly enjoy Detective.
I'll give it an 8 as well. It could be higher, but it's such a straight action sequence that I don't know if it can go any higher than that. But it's really well done.
I read this one quick. Like, I got through it and I was like, oh man, it's already done. Yeah. Like, a lot of fun action.
I'm hitting things. The backup is the final part of the World War Z. So not World War Z.
I'm gonna have to go back through my issues of Detective and read all these now.
Yeah, sorry. So I said World War Z, Task Force Z.
Yes, I get what you meant. I think we all did.
Yeah. So, and I've been enjoying this. This little backup series has convinced me that I do need to check out this book. But this was kind of the final part of it. Deb Donovan freaking out. Batman's there now. Gets her out of harm's way. Red Hood's still beating up the guys responsible for all this, stealing bodies, malarkey, whoever this is. The big twist is that after they subdue Red Hood, the guy takes off his mask and he's got an FBI badge. So this is like official. This is government bodies doing this shit. The story goes out. They tease whoever the mysterious guy is behind running this. Whenever he's talking to Nakano, and Nakano's pissed that I helped you approve all this like shady stuff. This is making me look bad with this news article going out. But the real point of this though is that Red Hood, he's in what feels like a sort of an interrogation style room, but it turns out he's not there to be interrogated or tortured. It's a job interview. And he's like, well, what the hell? What's the job? And the final page is Task Force Z behind them. You got Man-Bat, Bane, and co. And obviously there's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek humor here, because it says, I'm putting together a team and they're dying to meet you. So
it seems like Rosenberg, because I saw that as I was flipping through.
Yeah.
It seems like Rosenberg's having a lot of fun over at DC.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I can't deny this has actually been a really fun setup for this book. Derek Robertson did the art. I think is mostly I think Red Hood looks a bit weird in the last couple of pages. I think his face feels a bit odd, but for the most part, when they've all got their masks on, I think the art's pretty pulpy and pretty fun. It feels a little bit old school. The heavy inks give it kind of a 90s vibe to me. But yeah, I'm totally down to try this. I think this has been a fantastic example of a backup kind of being a prologue to another new series, and it's good enough that it's made me. Now, admittedly, it was Matthew Rosenberg who's going to do the series, so I probably would have given it a chance anyway. But this actually made me kind of like, oh, this is actually kind of fun, and I kind of hate how many things with Red Hood in it I'm enjoying these days. It feels against my
I've just
soul.
given up on it, and just be like, he's fine now. You know, like it's okay.
It's okay.
You can still hate Guy Gardner, Pete. Like,
oh, good. Yes, yeah. Guy Gardner sucks with an X. That's SUX.
There you go. You're entitled to your opinion.
Yes.
But yeah, it just, I almost feel like these because you have Rosenberg and Williamson, all these guys that are doing stuff with the Red Hood character, and even Tom Taylor, they're all within our generation. It's almost like they took a mission to go, how can we make Jason Todd suck less? and now they're just going for it. So, you know,
there's some sort of Jason Todd improvement agenda going on, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Stop
it. But yes, now backups. You know, if I don't know, I hate rating backups on their own. It feels weird because you know, it's just like, I think I want to give this an 8 as well, but it feels weird to, like, because I wouldn't say it's up to the standard of the main story, but at the same time, it's only a part of a story, is it? Mm-hmm. But it left me wanting to read the new book, so whatever. Like, just that's my rating. Gotcha. So, Action Comics 1035, Philip K. Johnson and Daniel Sempere. Obviously, this has been good stuff. This is kind of the final issue before we actually start the Warworld saga, which is kind of exciting, and we've been looking forward to this for some time. Last issue, of course, we had all of the really dark stuff that pushed Thao La over the edge into actual attack. Superman starts the issue with sort of intervening as all this is going down. Supergirl and John are there as well. And you know, it really sells this idea that, you know, Lois really is like saying, no, don't hurt her, like, it's not her fault, like, they've pushed her to this. And there's a great moment where she's got like a communicator device. Superman, in classic Superman fashion, convinces her to believe in herself that they can go back to Warworld and stop this. And I think what I like the most about this, other than just that classic Superman thing of convincing someone to believe in themselves, because that's very traditional Superman, is I like that this comic book did a really good fake out here, where I actually thought she was about to die because of the way she says, you know, promise me that you'll go and save them, because it looks like this box is going to kill her, right? This device is going to kill her.
Right.
And it actually genuinely sold me on this thing that this was going to be the final nail of motivation for Superman to say, no, I have to go. I have to leave Earth. This woman died. I have to go and save everyone else. This is too important now. Mm-hmm. But she actually did survive because Superman, you know, swoops in and sort of like basically withstands a lot of the pain for her, like grabs it and takes the pain on. So, which again is very Superman and selfless and heroic and all those things. And it was a big moment. It was a fist pumping moment. But it does lead to this great thing where it's a communication thing, and, you know, Mongol and co were talking to her through it, and Superman then appears to Mongol on Warworld via like a sort of hologram style thing, and Mongol's all, do you know who you stand before? And Superman says, when this is all over, only one of us will be standing.
So good.
And he envisions the device, which obviously makes a hologram go away, but notably, then one of them says, it is done, and Mongol smiles. This is all going according to plan.
Yeah, they want him there, like he's been drawn in. And it kind of goes into Johnson's whole point that Superman's a symbol, and if you want to defeat something, you crush that symbol, and that goes into, you know, the future state stuff that we read from him, you know, that takes place in the future, and this definitely feels like what leads to that.
And
but that whole sequence.
I think what's interesting though, or what was a good thing about this book, is that every character after this all know this is a trap. Every single person, Lois, John, everyone, they all say this is a trap. He's like, I know it's a trap, but I still have to go. It doesn't change the fact that I'm coming. Right. I'm going to go. I'm going to come home, and that's it. And John tries to talk him out of it, of course. And maybe some of that's in this book, some of that's in the other book, because it kind of happens in both books, because the big goodbye is also in Superman, Son of Kal-El. But the Justice League are like, we should probably be going with you, but there's too many things going on. Also, you're kind of out the team for a bit because of that shit you pulled with intervening last issue.
Yeah.
So And it's like, yeah, this does feel like a sort of thing where maybe the whole league should go to Warworld and save all these people who have been enslaved. But we get a classic Superman Batman moment where the league leave, but Batman doesn't, and it's kind of like the opposite of him Batman out of a scene, because he's sort of Batman. He Batman remains in a scene, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Everyone else leaves and he stays.
Yeah, but stealthily, if such a thing's even possible. And just basically asks where the fragment is, and Superman's got it hidden. It's shielded. No one can sort of pick up where it is. And this is the one thing that kind of ties into the fact that the Authority are going to be going on this trip with them. I'm not sure how important actually having read Superman the Authority is going to be to this.
I'm telling you, I don't think they are, and I think that Johnson took it upon himself to put him together an expendable team.
Yeah, it's okay.
That if something happens to one or two of them, that I think it's okay based off of, whatever Morrison did. Because again, I still feel like that Morrison book was a future state. And so here's more of that kind of future state stuff, kind of like the Magistrate and all that, coming back around to what's going on now. Because there's even a newer character. You have Mongal when you get to see the team put together.
Yeah, but there's a bit of Superman and John saying goodbye, which it's funny because it kind of happens in both books in a weird way, but the different scenes.
This one hit me, and it was the hug there that always come back, and regardless of if that's true or not, it's just a good, a Superman, and something Clark would say, but. Before that, when John gets mad and he goes, if Damian's creepy dad asked me to join the league after kicking you out, I'm going to punch him in his stupid head, right? And I like that, and Clark's just like, you don't have to join, do whatever you want, right? And he's just aggravated. He goes, ugh, that guy. And I was like, John, that's how I feel most months reading Batman, all right? It's perfectly normal, Matt
loves reading Batman. He loves reading Detective. He likes to...
Yeah, I love reading Detective. Batman's been fine, but... I just thought that was funny that John, of course, is irritated by Damian's creepy dad, which I thought, outside for humor's sake, I think that John wouldn't. There is still some reverence, I feel like, he would have to his best friend's dad.
Honestly, my favorite moment in the issue... Well, actually, maybe that's not true. My favorite moment is probably the moment I already talked about with the fake-out death and him jumping in. But my other favorite moment in the issue, though, is actually the page with Lois next. They obviously they fly off into the air and they sort of start seemingly having sex in the sky before going to back to the bed or whatever. But the moment I actually really like is that Lois is sitting and she's did you say goodbye to Crypto? Did you do this? Did you do that? We should try and keep track of this and look after the Genesis thing. And Superman just says, Lois, fly with me, and she just gives this little smile. It's just this little thing where she's just doing the job. She's keeping track of everything. It's like it's like as a mother more so than a journalist or anything like that, but in the sense that she's sort of making sure she's keeping track of all the moving parts, the kid, the dog, everything, and he's just like
the story points,
right
too,
and he's just saying, stop, let's go and have a moment because I'm about to leave. We have to share something together here, and obviously all those pages afterwards are all really nice and. It's all very neat, and romantic and beautiful and all the rest of it. And he kisses on the forehead later that night. And then we see him with the team. Who I recognize about half of.
So you got Natasha, Iron Steel, right? You got Apollo and Midnighter. You got Mongal, Enchantress, Manchester Black, and then I forget the new name. It's Light Ray.
Light Ray, that's what it is, okay.
Yeah, it's the speedster character.
I'll be honest, I didn't
from the last issue.
Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't recognize that was Mongal just because.
Yeah. Only reason is because of Suicide Squad, right? She had a moment in Guns, so that's why. I don't know her origin or anything, but I feel like it's fitting that a Mongol-inspired person, or even if she's from there. Yeah, going back to Warworld is a nice touch for this story.
Yeah, they teleport away, and it just says, next, the Warworld saga. And what's so exciting about that is it does kind of feel like one day there's going to be a giant like hardcover called the Warworld Saga for however many issues this is going to. It may even be an omnibus. I don't know how long this is going to last, but
my I always say this, and it's kind of controversial to other Superman fans, but like one of my all-time favorite moments is from For the Man Who Has Everything, where they wake up Superman from the Black Mercy and Mongol's there, and he just says Mongol burn, because he's ripped away this perfect life and made Superman really feel like all this stuff, and he's just not happy. And I feel that's the vibe here now, that the whole now setup is Mongol burn. And I feel that it's nice that Johnson can kind of tie that in here, that he's taking it to him. Instead of Superman being that reactive hero, it almost feels like he's being proactive, even though he knows it's a trap, and he's like, it has to be dealt with. And he's put together this ragtag group to go to Warworld.
I think the book's done a good job of convincing me why he's making this choice. Between finding possible Kryptonian relatives, well, not relatives, not family relatives, but you know what I mean,
other Kryptonians, other Kryptonians. Even if they were a colony.
Yeah. But finding other Kryptonians who have been in this situation, learning more about this, a bit more, because I think the last issue of this book was probably the standout issue of. It's not the standout issue of Johnston's run, because that first issue did in Future State is still the pinnacle of everything he's done, but. That last issue, right? Then it's not to put this, because this one's a solid, great issue, but last issue sold the darkness and the vileness of what Mongol has people do. It was so sinister the way it turned Thawla into doing what she was doing, where she felt she had to do this or her loved ones would die, killing the other two. In fact, there's a scene in this issue where they've made graves for the two Thalosians who died, who never even woke up. And Superman says, I'm going to find people who knew their names and knew their history, and we can write their story down, and it'll be remembered, it won't be forgotten. And but it does have this air, and it reminded me of how good that last issue was, because it was genuinely quite shocking the way they just kind of killed these characters off.
I also just had the realization that I know you weren't big on the whole Knights of the Round Table, future, House of L stuff, but I feel like this keeping Thawla on Earth to heal and stuff kind of pinpoints that too, about now, there's going to be multiple branches of the House of L. It's not just John and Kara. Now you have somebody else, because we know that on, where she's from, they wear the sigil on their skin as as a point of hope and as a symbol for freedom. And now I just realized with her staying back, and him going to Warworld and stuff, that's another piece of that story coming into place, which is really cool. Man, he's doing such a good job.
It's funny because all the stuff with Warworld actually feels like the one thing from Future State that may actually just happen, because the actual Warworld stuff doesn't necessarily feel like it was that far in the future. And all the stuff in the far, far future with the Descendants is this is basically Superman's own Legion style story where it's that far in the future, but it doesn't matter that it's but
I do like that is a piece that's in place now, that he's kind of breadcrumbed there.
Oh yeah, but what I'm saying is that can happen, and it's just it's just a distant future that is that's where he's saying the story's going to go eventually, but it's never going to affect the current present day stuff.
No, not like the Warworld, where it feels like that, despite that piece in the future having Smallville be this mecca, of Superman people. Outside of that, this feels very much, that just feels like a chapter.
Yeah,
or a prologue.
Whereas, the Gotham stuff from Future State, it feels more like, this was a possible future, but it feels like by the end of Fear State, they'll stop that future from happening. That's what it feels like anyway to me.
Right.
So.
No, definitely.
So I think that's a key difference, which is interesting. So. No, really, really good issue. Art is solid throughout, I think. There's some really big moments, like I said, Lois and Clark flying and kissing. I mean, that small moment I like where he basically just tells it to shut up, let's go fly and have a romantic moment, stop worrying about things and let's go do this. But think about how many words I just used to describe that moment. But in the scene, all it is Lois, come fly, and her smile. It's it's one line and then the smile, and that tells you all. So, really good stuff. All right, what are you giving Action Comics?
I'm gonna say 9.
I'll go 8.5. I'll say that the shadow of that the even more amazing last issue lingers over it a little bit, but it's very, very good. I'm really excited for Warworld Saga. So cool. All right. Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 3, Tom Taylor writing and John Timms on the art. There's some more goodbye stuff in this, but of course it's a bit more John focused, as you'd expect, given the premise. And also, John does Hard Time.
Yeah.
45 minutes of Hard Time, but Hard Time all the same.
That is the most Tom Taylor line in this entire...
That cracked me up.
Just because it does have that humor still, for as serious as John is, in that, he's very sincere about wanting to fix the world and the problems. Yes. But him going down and he did Hard Time.
It was...
You're in there for 45 minutes.
Very, very, very delightful. Yes. So we get an action at the start where Superman and John are saving a building that's falling down in Coast City. Simple stuff, but it's like, this is weird. It was like an earthquake, but it was like a pinpoint earthquake that only affected this little place. That might mean there's something super heroic or a metahuman or something. And sure enough, they find a character named Fault Line. Flatline's in Robin. That's why I made that slip. Fault Line.
More on her later.
But Fault Line is kind of confused though. She's not like being all maniacal and saying, "Aha, I will destroy the city." She has amnesia. She doesn't know who she is. She's sort of standing there, just being kind of confused. And it turns out that if she takes a step, it causes a mini earthquake. Right? They can feel tremors, and when Superman and John pick her up, her density is so extreme. It's like she's really heavy to them. What does John describe it as? Her body density is off the charts. It's like she bonded with a fraction of a neutron star.
Yep.
It's like, okay, so clearly this is, someone in trouble, but she's very dangerous to everyone around her.
Yeah, very reminiscent of the wildfire guy from the last issue.
Yeah, which obviously John says. This is not the first time I've encountered someone like this who has an accidental power, who doesn't know what they're doing. So it sets up some plot stuff, but it brings us back to Jay. It was a character who was introduced last issue, this activist that John kind of befriended at the college, and there's protesting because apparently the US government has agreed to send back the refugees that John saved from, was it Gamorum?
Gamora.
Gamoran, sorry.
Yep.
There's an N at the end.
Well, that's but the island is Gamora. But yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, sure.
Refugees.
You're right. So Gamora wants them back, and there's a protest happening. John decides he helps a couple of the protesters because the police are starting to bring out their sticks and whatnot. And he says, "Well, I'm gathering with them, so arrest me if you must." And sure enough, they put on the cuffs. John lets himself be arrested. It's obviously a big statement. Cat Grant shows up to interview, and Matt is dealing with dogs or something. There's serious business going on. And yeah, so Superman comes to get him out of jail. Jay was also going to do the same thing, which leads to Superman being introduced to John's friend and invites him for dinner in Smallville. So they fly off with John's new friend. And it is in Smallville, so it's with the Kents. Lois is waiting there as well. And some nice humor here. Jay freaks out by meeting Lois. I mean, obviously, he was starstruck with Superman, but he's especially starstruck with Lois.
Yeah. This is a guy who runs something called The Truth, right? Like, of course he's going to be excited to meet Lois.
Yeah, he freaks out. So I guess the only real critique about editorial here between this and Action Comics is that they have this moment here where John walks in and Superman, Lois, and the Kents are all kind of looking at him like they've all just like they're about to tell him some bad news, and he realizes what this is. But this doesn't really sync up with how we saw it in how we saw it in Action Comics. With how because it feels like he knows that decision's being made in Action Comics the second Superman makes it. Whereas here it looks like, oh no, he's made that later, and he's told Lois and the Kents first. It feels a little bit disjointed in that sense. It's not a huge deal,
just a tad, but I feel like we get Taylor's take on this, and then we got Johnson's take in action. So I'm kind of okay with the disjointedness, just because they hit two different emotional beats.
I mean, I suppose you can read it as he made the choice in action, and then this is like him saying, okay, it's time for me to actually leave now. But I feel like that could have just been a little bit more clear. It kind of felt like in Action Comics, like the choice was made and his leaving was imminent, and partly because he did leave at the end of the issue. It was like it felt like he said his goodbye already. But that's not to say that this is not a sweet moment. With Superman giving him the pep talk, saying he'll be back no matter what. John's still worried and thinks this is the end of his story and he'll never come back because he's been from the to the future. So all good stuff. And Superman says, "You've already changed the future. You've already made such a difference. I'm the man of tomorrow, but you're the one who's here for after that," which I thought was a really good.
Yeah, that's the one that got me. You're for the days after, which is a nice, Again, that's a Tom Taylor point of view kind of deal where, you look at the next generation. Yeah.
No, really nice ending to that scene. And I think I'm excited actually about this now that Superman's gone. Not that his inclusion's been bad, but I think it's going to be interesting now to like have the book without him and have it just truly be John on his own. But yeah, so no.
I also like John talking to Ma Kent, where he says, "You're not worried? He's my son. I'm always worried, but I stopped doubting him a long time ago." Like that's just one of those moments, like in Birthright. Where Pa Kent tells Clark, you're my son first. I'm always going to try to talk you out of doing what you're going to do, but I know you're not going to listen. So go be you. This I felt was kind of similar, but it was Grandma reassuring.
Yeah, but then we get some plot stuff. So the president of Gamora turns out...
Fake Luthor.
Fake Luthor, but this is John's Luthor though. That's the point, right? We're getting John's
but
Luthor.
Like down to the green and purple color scheme, the bald head. He's fake Luthor.
But the point is that he's actually monitoring all this. He knows that Superman's left, and now he wants to ruin John's life. So he's actually somehow kidnapped Fault Line, and more importantly, gotten her back. That's the word that's used. So that she was their instrument before. So she's scared. She doesn't know what she's not doing anything malicious. She doesn't know that she's working for them.
No.
He basically just throws her out a plane. I mean, I say he's backing Gamora, but he has his lackeys throw her out of a plane so she'll land at the Kent farm. And as we would clearly introduced at the start of the issue, that if she takes a step, it causes a mini earthquake. So she's falling from a plane on the farm, and the final page of the book is just this giant shockwave and, like, whatever you want to call it, this giant quake, the epicenter being right in the farm. So I really dug this ending, actually. I really like this idea that this villain is using people, and they don't even know why they're being used or how they were used. And then the fact that he's also trying to just completely destroy everything that John cares about and ruin his life. It's just really, really sinister. It's like, okay, he already felt like a pretty bad villain before, from issue 2, but this kind of made it feel like, oh no, he's a really vindictive personal villain now as well. So I kind of dug that.
So this character of Henry Bendix has been around since Wildstorm days, since like the 90s.
I think you looked this up. I think you looked this up last issue, because I remember saying I think he's new, and then you said no, he's from Wildstorm.
But I didn't realize the character. I looked up Gamora as the island. But so I looked this guy up, and that last time he appeared was in Midnighter Volume 2 by Orlando. So I think it's also cool that Taylor is taking from Wildstorm instead of creating just wholly new, which he could have done, right?
Yeah, he could have done.
But he's going and finding this character
I wonder. Sometimes I wonder if did Taylor know about this character, and he may be a Whalestorm fan for all we know. I have no idea.
Right.
Or is it a case of he wanted to use a dictator like this in this type of story, and just maybe they've got a group chat where he said, "Hey guys, I'm doing a story like this. I want a character that's pre-established that fits this," and then someone like Orlando who's used them already goes, "Oh, I've got a great idea for you. What about this Bendix guy from Whalestorm?"
I like the idea even more that it's Jim Lee because he's the one that created him.
Oh yeah, I mean that makes more sense.
Jim Lee's like, hey,
just the guy for you.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, well, when the boss offers him up, I'll do it. Because he's still the solo publisher, right, Jim Lee?
Yeah. I do genuinely think that obviously sometimes creators use characters and things because they do personally like it or have an attachment to it, but I do think as well sometimes they need a certain type of character and they don't know who to use, so they'll just say to their colleagues, hey, who fits this description, and then someone goes,
and that could be too. I'm used to the Johnsian, like I know a lot of those characters that he was pulling out were from his childhood, or he just created them from whole cloth, so I just apply that to everybody. Probably incorrectly.
Not everyone's an encyclopedia like Jeff Johns is.
Yeah, so but yeah, which reminds me, I gotta get back onto Stargirl. I'm gonna start working those in.
Oh, the show?
It was, yeah. So, but
that's good. Season 2 is doing some interesting stuff with Eclipso. So,
I'll get there. I have Superman and Lois to watch too. They just threw those up on Max. So.
All right, yeah. But I think that's Superman Son of Kal-El. Solid issue. I think I preferred issue 2 over issue 1. I think issue 3 is probably a bit on par with issue 2. It's continuing these statements, this idea of John being the one to do things that Superman won't because he sees himself differently. He even has a speech at one point when he's talking to Cat Grant about how, my grandfather, sent my father here. He's an immigrant. It sounds a lot like what you hear in a lot of interviews with people who are either the children or grandchildren of immigrants when they're arguing certain topics, for present day.
If you're sending them to somewhere that's going to be dangerous, how dangerous are you sending them from?
Yeah,
is kind of the point, and it's kind of like there's a reason, that they're coming here. It's not just because. So, but yeah. That's real good. And again, it's Taylor adding these little pieces of real life, into comics where, you can have art representing real life and vice versa. And I think it fits, especially with Superman, and this new generation in John.
All right. What are you giving Superman Son of Kal-El?
I'm going to give this one an 8.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8 too. I mean, I've been pretty close on the ratings with this so far, but I can't really argue.
That's right. You didn't read Justice League, so we'll break there.
Oh yeah, I get to rest my voice now. Justice League 68, Brian Michael Bendis writing with Scott Godlewski on the art. Take it away, man.
I'll positives up front. Godlewski. I like seeing him draw the Justice League. Everything's very chunky in that early 2000s style, which I think fits the kind of story that Bendis is telling. So I'm glad. This is just more of the what they're called, the United Order, trying to pressure Clark into handing over the Phantom Zone. And at one point, the Tamaranian tells Clark something, and it kind of sticks with him in all of this. And he asks him, he goes, Prince Zarep, what does that mean that you told me? I'm not even going to try to say it because it's all written in a foreign thing. He goes, what would Kal-El of Earth do? It's something we say on Tamaran to get the littles to, choose better. So it's basically what we tell the kids. What would Kal-El do? And it, it kind of continues those threads from Bendis' Superman. Which again, I feel like this has just become the Bendis story that's running through DC. And then, Naomi gets her parents out of the Tower of Fate, where, Fate is upset that Constantine was left alone in there. The Justice League wonders how they're going to fix the Hall of Justice, but Flash and Superman fix everything in super speed, which was kind of like, well, it almost made it sound like the Justice League was going to get a new headquarters, because they start talking about the Watchtower and all these other ones and how much of a pain it was to get up there and whatnot. And I think it was Ollie, or no, it was Hot Girl that's like, oh yeah, I kind of like the Watchtower. It was a fun time. But all that's for nothing, because then you have you have Superman and Flash end up just fixing everything in super speed. And then you have Green Arrow going to help Damon Rose, or going to checkmate, because Damon Rose is being attacked by Deathstrokes. And you see him in action here, where he's like Nightwing good, and he's to, this stuff that his sister is to journalism. And I'll get on this in Checkmate. Just the whole idea that Bendis is trying to treat this Damon Rose character as a secret when he's already exposed him here in Justice League tells me that Checkmate was supposed to come out still, and nothing else has really changed.
Oh yeah, because Checkmate was delayed for ages.
Yeah, big time. But so Green Arrow and Manhunter go to talk with Checkmate, and someone goes to blow them up. Ollie ends up with the knocking the rocket down with an arrow, and it's this Superman shows up with them to because they're not part of Checkmate, like Ollie and Bones and Manhunter are and stuff. And Canary's there with Superman going like, hey, what's going on? I can't wait for introductions. Like, you're looking around the shadows. And then you find out that it was this team of Deathstrokes that launched the armor. They're in the Deathstroke armor that launched the rocket at them, and they're trying to see what happens, and it ends by them saying like, all we see is a blurry Superman logo. Uh-oh. So it has some of that Bendis fun stuff. But I don't understand the point of this book right now, besides just being the Bendis story. Because there's a lot of stuff going on here that just feel like he's tying up loose threads without actually doing it. So, yeah. But again, Godlewski's art's really fantastic. So I'll give this a 5.5.
Praise.
And then, yeah, right. And then here's the garlic bread, if you will. You have Ram V and Sumit Kumar on Justice League Dark, and Merlin is still fighting in Atlantis, and Bobo and Arthur are taking out these Aqua zombies. Etrigan's there, and he just goes off and takes them all out with Hellfire. And then they talk about, how Bobo's like, sometimes it really scares me. I don't know how Jason Blood does it. Locked up in that thing with a cramped body and mind. And he goes, I'd go entirely mad if that ever happened to me. So that's Ram V, playing with the future state stuff here, where, Detective Chimp was bonded to Etrigan. But he ends up talking with Etrigan and talking about with Arthur. And the demon calls him Chimp, and he goes, no, my name's Bobo, or you can call me Detective. Let's go take care of this. And we see Zatanna fighting with Merlin, where she ends up with Ragman, end up kind of taking him out, but by doing that, it unleashes the Upside Down Man from Zatanna. So she ends up losing control, getting overcome by this darkness. Because when they had taken out Merlin, as Merlin's kind of deteriorating, he goes, you guys have already lost. She was doing all she could to hold it in. I used that stone to take the last bit of her power away. So it was almost as if him trying to use this magic was keeping the Upside Down Man at bay still. And when they took him out, it flips her upside down, and Zatanna starts changing into that version that we saw at the end of Justice League Dark when they bonded him. And it's to be continued, but it's all written upside down, which is cool. The lettering, which is a nice touch. And it always reminds me of there was in Countdown, there was a dark version of Zatanna that said words upside down to make her magic work, which was just weird because how do you say a word upside down? Like it means it to us as readers, but as you're hearing it, it was super weird. But yeah, it's you know, I wish this was the main course and not the side, you know, of it, because I find the stuff going on Justice League Dark infinitely more interesting. So I'll give that a 7.5. But yeah, still getting Justice League because Justice League Dark, because I'm a fool, you know.
Not to worry, we're not done with Matt Bendis talk, because Checkmate issue 4, Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev.
Art again, fantastic. Like Bendis is looking out. Like he's working with Maleev, his old buddy, here, and I mean this is some good spy stuff. So like, what's funny is they were talking in Justice League about the Watchtower, and this starts with Merlin and the Guardian, in the Watchtower. Like it's been left abandoned. It was it's what Leviathan wanted, was one of the pieces, because they want the Hall of Justice, the Batcave computer, and the Fortress of Solitude. That's what they need to get access to really free everybody, so they say. But Manhunter and Green Arrow are up there waiting for them, and there's a fight, and Merlin and Guardian get away, but not before Green Arrow manages to get an arrow into Guardian, and it leaves a pool of blood. And Shaw teleports them away as soon as Guardian gets hit, so they don't even get, you know, they bring up like they were surprised that they were being teleported out. So whatever they came for, they didn't get to execute, and you know their guess of showing up there paid off. But this leads to Checkmate looking at the blood sample and finding out there's like, what did he say? There's something else in today's sample. It's they're splicing alien DNA into whatever they're giving the Leviathan members. And Bones brings up that he's seen this because it's a rejected experiment from when he was running the DEO. So there's a lot of stuff at play here. So they start wondering if there's nanotechnology in alien DNA, and that this is how Shaw is taking over these otherwise, you know, notable people, you know, like Guardian, a lot of the people that were running all the other agencies. And then Lois is talking with Superman, and Maleev's just really working here because we're in the fortress and just all the lines going every which way. Like there's a lot of line work here that's taking up the background, but it looks gorgeous. But it's Superman talking to Lois, and Lois is kind of like, she's worried because they kidnapped her, but they didn't seem to have a reason. It was almost just like to show that they could. But you know, she's worried that she's been affected by whatever this thing is, and Superman's like, no, we've checked, all your vitals are fine, you seem okay, and you know, she's like, well, what if it's something you've never seen before? He's like, well, we'll handle it, but she's still worried because there's so much, you know, mystery with her dad, and this leads to them looking at that like snowman that she took from her dad's houseboat, which was the snowman's ticket. She pops the head off of this plush, and there is basically it is the certified abstract of birth. So it's Leonardo Lane's birth certificate. And so this is like supposed to be the point where we learn that Lois has a younger brother. And I just kind of wish that, you know, they had plotted this a little bit better, because we've already met this character in Justice League. And I guess this solidifies the fact that it's really her younger brother. But like, for, you know, her dad being able to keep this a secret, I guess that's the biggest mystery. And I guess that's fine, but it's just kind of how they handle everything. And it goes back to Checkmate at their secret headquarters, and they're all, you know, standing around talking with Damian, and Damian points out, you know, that everything that they need to do, you know, I'm trying to find this. Basically, he points out everything that Leviathan's going to do, and that they're playing into their hands, which leads to them being followed and whatnot. And and it almost is casting, because if you remember, Talia is still in play. She's like a wild card that we don't know if she's been affected by whatever, when Damien had come and freed her. But King Faraday, the king, we still don't know who he is, gets taken out by an arrow. There's an explosion and a fight, which leads to the headquarters being zapped away by Sean Leviathan. And then that's where it ends. Much better read than Justice League, and we're about halfway through. I'm still not exactly sure what the point of this Checkmate book is, because like with Leviathan, we understood their how they want to free everybody from the influence of like secrets and whatnot. But here, if the point of everything is that they're brainwashing people with nanotechnology and alien DNA, it kind of undercuts what Shaw's doing there, where he wants to be the voice of reason, right? And that's why you would get Superman. Yeah. But yeah, what's up?
It's just this kind of, given the whole mystery of who's, that was already spoiled in Justice League, I do wonder if the end of this book is going to actually set something up that is already kind of
in play.
And in play in Justice League. Yeah, I just thought.
Well, because we already have hints that whatever these Deathstrokes are in Justice League, they're likely clones. So if we're dealing with this different kind of technology, or they're making people, right, and Leviathan's taken out by the end of this, and that leads to a void, who knows? It's very, very messy, and I know that's mainly a me problem because I thrive on continuity. But even here, it's I'm glad we're getting this book, but it almost feels like just a bonus chapter, if you will. Because if Bendis was just able to go start on his Justice League without the stuff that happens here, without feeling the need to explain it, I don't know. That said, I'm never going to be mad at a Bendis Maleev book that really plays with the shadows, because again, this is a lot more fun to read and has a bit more substance than whatever's going on in Justice League.
Yeah, I mean, I dropped both, but Checkmate was definitely the one that was more enjoyable to actually read.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So, rating this, I'm going to give this a 7.5.
That said, if Sinmar shows up in issue 5...
Don't do that. Take that back from the universe.
The mystery can only lead to one man. Technically not a man.
Sinmar Utopica, and I'm mad that I still know
that. Did you rate this, Matt?
Yeah, 7.5.
7.5, okay, cool. Robin, issue 6, Joshua Williamson writing with Gleb, Melnikov on the art. And this is the fighting begins, the tournament actually begins. And the tournament stuff is fun, although it's actually some of the other stuff that's my favourite of the book, bizarrely. So, yes, Damien's taking on Blue Strike, round 1, as it says.
Now, did you read the last fight, in the Mortal Kombat voice? Because I did.
I guess.
Fight, and then,
Well, I don't know, because it's clearly meant to be the chant. It's meant to be the chant of the crowd. But so if it was just one fight, I probably would have heard fight. But so it's a sort of montage, double page layout of all the fights happening. A bunch of the D, F, and G listers getting their asses whooped in round 1. And then Damien takes on Tengu in round 2 and wins that fight. Do you know what Tengu was making me think of? Unsurprisingly, remember the Power Rangers movie when they go to the planet? There's the bird.
Yeah, that's what they're based on, though. Tengu are a Japanese, I don't want to say an evil spirit because I don't know if necessarily they're evil, but they are these bird warrior creatures. So yeah, so that's.
It was making me wait for Ivan Ooze to show up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Could you imagine though? Ivan Ooze rules.
I wouldn't be opposed to some Ivan Ooze shenanigans.
When I made that connection when I was younger, that was Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark, my flippin' 10-year-old mind was blown. So, Anyway, yeah, he. I like how Damien straight up murders Blue Strike with a head snap, which, as we know, what kind of led him to this tournament with Alfred. This is dark, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, him versus Tengu. I thought this was
there's a lot more motion in this fight. There's a lot of sweeping and swords, and running. But Damien ultimately kicks the katana into the neck of Tengu. So he runs into Mother Soul briefly. Damien basically realizes he needs that book, although that's reiterated. But the part of the book that I really like, right? Because I like the fighting. The fighting was fun, but it's ultimately just fighting.
Yeah.
Right? The part I really liked is that Flatline comes over and talks to Damien, and it kind of turns into this weird bonding. She mentions all the other fights that are going on right now. Mentions the Drenched winning a fight. XXL beats Raptor off panel. Raptor got his ass whipped.
Very upset about that one, just because we love Raptor and we saw how much of a badass Raptor was, right? So, but I don't know.
He's put over XXL. XXL though, it was formidable because he beat Raptor that easily.
Right.
Ravager beat someone.
They said choked out a pro wrestler with his own fanny pack, which I thought was hilarious. But we don't know who this character was, right? Like.
Obviously, Cutter Hawk won his fight as well.
It's Johnny Fist. That's a good name.
And then Black Swans taking on someone. Anyway, so
it's the double, right? Double Dare, but Double Dare had a fight each other to get out of the first round. This shows that God damn it, what's her name? You just said it.
Black Swan. You broke out of this in the middle of that sentence, so it was. It was hard to. It's hard to decipher what we were trying to say anyway.
The skeleton girl talking to Damien. Yeah. I'm drawing a blank on her name.
Oh, Flatline. Yeah.
Flatline. Thank you. That Flatline is showing how much she pays attention to, right? Because she realizes that Double Dare, they're used to fighting as a team. So solo, they don't really stand a chance, especially against Black Swan, who's too graceful. Like I like that little moment that she's also paying attention.
Yeah, but Respawn's winning their fight as well. But what I really liked is Flatline gives Damien his manga back, and it turns out one of the others tried to steal it. So they end up bonding a little bit over it, and we get a little bit of her backstory. She talks about how she kind of inherits the skills of whoever she kills. And she's been mentored by Lord Deathman, which is a great name. And there's a lot of because a great moment here where Alfred says, "I like this one, Master Damien." And obviously it's not really Alfred; it's Damien's subconscious. But the idea that he's starting to have feelings for Flatline is kind of funny to me. But when Ravager and Connor Hawk catch them under the bleachers and crack a joke about them having a makeout section. This is where I really started to. This was my favorite part of the book because this was like, wait a minute, we're getting a little Scooby Gang squad kind of forming out of this little team, which is Damien, Flatline, Ravager, and Connor Hawk, where they all care more about uncovering what this tournament's about rather than actually just winning it. That's right. I mean, not to say that Damien and Connor Hawk don't also want to win it because they do.
They're both competitive a-holes that want to beat each other, but the two girls are kind of like, well, there's something bigger going on here. This entire scene right here this scratches the itch that I missed from Titans. Right?
Sure. Oh, sure.
From a Titans book. Is that we have the young heroes interacting with each other. There's a group dynamic here. And I was like, oh yeah, Williamson wrote Titans for a minute. Like he's got that vibe down.
I think what's impressive about it is that it takes a Flatline who's either new or at least at the very least was basically an unknown quantity, even if she was around.
Let's check.
But it basically took her and sort of gave her enough character that I kind of started to take her seriously as a character in this one scene. And then, you throw in the others. Damien and Ravager are already on board with. Connor Hawk's kind of the mysterious one who's back. We're getting to sort of know this new version.
And I love that they're each the kind of problem son of their respective fathers, right? Like, has Connor Hawk addressed his dad here? Like, or not really?
Not really, I don't think.
Okay. So, just the fact that, too, that, this is Oliver Queen and Bruce Wayne's sons at opposite ends of this. I like that rivalry that keeps going. Flatline's all.
It doesn't even stop there though, because you have even Ravager being Deathstroke's daughter, Flatline not being.
Well, and Lord Deathman is the Batman of Japan's like Joker.
His nemesis.
So so this is nemesis. So like this is like she's almost his Harley, if you will, or sidekick. Let's not say Harley because there's other connotations there. But like but just looking up Flatline, this is a Williamson creation. So this was her first show up and already doing a good job at her origin. It, like, just the idea that she's surrounded by death all the time, so she sought out Lord Deathman, and then he sent her here to learn from other people, which I think is a great, like, for her being in the tournament, because she absorbs people's skills when they die. Like, this is like her, like, in a video game going to level up.
Yeah, what I like about this scene though is just how much I actually enjoy them all interacting. It kind of, it already got me to a point where I was excited to have them try and like reluctantly work together to steal this book because the book might have the secrets they want or whatever, and then even having Respawn kind of interrupt it like an antagonist. It's very clear from this interaction that Respawn, at least at current moment, is not part of this group. Respawn is an antagonist to this team that is kind of starting to form. And I don't think I saw this coming. Like, when this book started, I don't think I saw it like, oh, kind of like a new, almost Titans-esque team is going to form out of this. But it kind of feels like it might be now. And I'm kind of into it. Like, there's that panel of them all lined up when they're talking to Respawn in profile. And I'm like, I kind of want this team now. I hope this book kind of becomes this now.
Right, and I like all of these characters too. Like, these are all ones that I already, adding Flatline, but like Ravager, when she first started showing up back in the, mid-2000s, I thought she was a great character, just doing the whole Deathstroke thing, and then being almost the anti-Titan, to where she was kind of, begrudgingly hanging out with them.
I think this is almost like kind of the opposite of my point, though, is that it doesn't matter here who these characters are before this to a point. The book has made me like them all in the context of this story. One of the things that comes up a lot when we try a new Titans book or a new Teen Titans book or any new team book really is that when it's a bunch of characters we already know and we already care about, is that they get this leeway and it kind of takes a little bit of time to figure out that the writing's not that good or that they're not doing a good job. This has this weird benefit of like, because it's like a mix of some characters who are either new or not used that much or coming back or whatever. The fact that it was able to make this team vibe feel exciting this quickly is like a really promising sign. And it means that, because I don't think the plot has ever been the exciting part of this book. It's always been the characters. It's always been Damien and like his interactions with the others. The plot of like what's going on here is fun enough. I don't really care that much.
I love the tournament, but
what I care about though is these characters doing this together and being on this adventure.
Right. I like the fact that Damien calls out Ravager for calling the Robins on her. He's like, "You snitch." Or then when she brings Connor Hawk over, she's like, "Oh, so first you snitch on me, now you bring this a-hole that already killed me." Like, just him being that petty and her being kind of the adult in the room, for lack of a better term. But yeah, no, this is like, Williamson's very good at this type of stuff. Like, I don't think you've read Birthright, like, at all.
Nope.
But that book really gets cooking once you get to the personal dynamics of the characters and you start to see them interact with one another in different ways. And that feels very much similar to this one.
So that moves on to round 3, and Damien's fighting Respawn, and conveniently lets himself get knocked into where Mother Soul is, so he can steal the book. So it kind of becomes him reading the book rather than paying attention. And the final panel of the issue is Respawn's sickle coming in to grab him. But it's saying that next time we're going to be dealing with who Mother Soul really is.
Yeah.
Which Damien himself is realizing at the end. We don't know yet, so we'll find out next time.
No.
I think what's fun about this is that, assuming that our 4 main characters now, because now we have 4 main characters in this tournament, assuming those 4 win this round, they're going to be fighting each other come round 4.
Which makes me think that one of them is not going to get there. Because I don't think, like, looking at the tournament dynamics, But you have Robin versus Respawn, Hawk versus Double XL, Flatline versus Drenched, and Black Swan versus Ravager. So yeah, that's a hell of an Elite Eight. And also, I like that Damian has pieced together what the Lazarus tattoos and stuff mean. Like he's been, about all this, and I also get the feeling too that he's into this tournament for the immortality, but not for the reasons we think. Right? I feel like whatever this Lazarus pit is, it's special, and I think he has Alfred in mind in that way that only Damian can be like, well, I can fix what I did wrong.
Oh, I'm sure he does. I'm sure that's what his goal is.
And the lesson he's going to have to learn is sometimes you have to just let stuff go. You know what I mean? And he's not going to be able to revive Alfred the way that he would want, right? I got reading this issue, put that into my brain. I can't get why outside of him saying there's something bigger to the League of Lazarus here. But yeah, no, I love this book. I look forward to this every month, and this is the Williamson that I came up on before he was at DC. So
I think it's the best issue so far. I think the way the characters interact and the dynamic is put this into a new level that makes me excited about it on a character level. And I think once a comic book reaches that, it has sustainability. Because ultimately, if it's just a plot that's interesting, it usually is. It's very easy for it to decline very quickly if you don't care about the characters. So, I'm into it. This is good stuff. And Melnikov arts, it's there. The action has a lot of sweeping, a lot of motion lines, sense of energy in the layouts.
Perfect artist for this. Just because when you get to the action sequences with the fights, it's all there. But like you said, that lineup shot when they're talking to Respawn just fits so well.
Yeah, you feel a team forming before your eyes, despite the fact that they never declared that they're a team or anything. It feels exciting because it's like, oh, these characters are coming together, and even though they've not agreed to it or admitted it yet, they're all kind of on the same side. And so I'm really hoping that we get like a good team for Damian to be a leader of coming out of this.
For sure.
Not that I suspect they'll like let him think he's the leader, but
no, not with Ravager. Ravager's like, just let him talk, and we'll figure this out later. I like their dynamic. It's very the Ravager and Damian dynamic. I just realized this is kind of the Stephanie dynamic that we enjoyed in Brian Q. Miller's in that one issue, right, where she's babysitting him.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that.
Yeah, it's very similar to that, and I like that. So, also, like, I can't wait for him to interact with John again. Like, I need to see Damian interact with Superman version John.
Oh, sure.
After whatever happens here on this island, how it changes him, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I also love that this is leading to this little team becoming the team that's in this book. I kind of love that the book wasn't sold on that promise. It just it built to it. And let us realize it in the story instead of being, hey, this book's about this team forming.
Yeah, it hooked me with a martial arts tournament, Iron Fist style. And then was like, oh, you like team dynamics? Here, we're going to give you a team as we build. And I'm like, okay, just give me more, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, if this is what the Robin book becomes, it's like these guys, I'm more than here for that. Like if we get arcs with them, whatever happens, like a Lethal Weapon kind of story with Connor Hawk and Damian doing stuff. Like, yes, please.
That's a weird leap that doesn't seem to be connected to anything else we talked about, but sure. What are you giving this book, Matt?
Yeah, I'm gonna give this 8.5.
I am also going to give it an 8.5.
When I said Lethal Weapon, I meant more 48 hours. The two guys on opposite sides. That's what I meant to say. The Lethal Weapon came into my head. Started seeing Danny Glover and Mel Gibson.
Even just going with the buddy cop with two of them just felt like a weird sort of leap to me. But
well, no, because they're both on opposite sides, right? Like they both don't like each other, and the fact like they have to go and figure out something for an arc, and learn to like each other. I'm here for that.
Okay. So Deathstroke Inc. issue 1, Joshua Williamson again writing with Howard Porter on the art. So this is the new book, which I would have tried it anyway because it's Williamson, but there was a prelude to this in one of the Urban Legends issues, which was quite good and revealed that this was actually a co-Black Canary book, which if they'd just said that in the first place, this would have been even more exciting to start with. But it's a co-headlined by Black Canary, and it's them working for Trust, and they're going after Hive. And this issue really takes that places, which I did not expect. This is mostly a new direction for Hive, right?
Definitely, because last time I checked, Hive was like a who is it over in Marvel?
Like AIM? Yeah, AIM's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, they're like AIM, to where they're these faceless henchmen. You can kind of hire Hive out, but Hive was just an acronym, you know. Here they really lean into the bug aspect, and I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, there's a lot more actual bee-related things going on here. So basically, Black Canary's undercover, but Deathstroke ruins that by just riding in a big Batmobile. Because remember, Trust have stolen a lot of Batman's tech.
So they also have Toyman, but he's the kid, like the Boy Genius version.
Yeah, the new Toyman, is it?
Yeah, the new one, and so, but they've also gotten a lot of Batman stuff, so Hero gets to play with all of Batman's toys.
But yeah, so Deathstroke storms in though, ruins the undercover part. Basically, they suspect that this town is actually not a real town, and it's just a hiding place for Hive operatives. But when Deathstroke comes in with the car and raises chaos, all of the people, like robotic bees, come out of them, and their skin just falls. And there's a great panel that shows this where Deathstroke picks up one of the husks, like one of the skin that's been left behind with his sword. So you see it just sort of draping over the sword. It's like, okay, they made this clear. They made this clear that this is creepy as shit. So it all of a sudden turned into a weird monster pulpy sci-fi story, which I was not expecting from this book.
Nope, not at all. Like, when you tell me you're gonna have Deathstroke and Black Canary, I think very much street level. Like, you know, they're gonna be interacting with the underworld of DC. And then Williamson's like, ha, gotcha. I'm gonna make bee people. And you're like, okay. I'm here for that.
I kind of dig the book. I mean, obviously, I would recommend reading that Urban Legend story if you haven't, but it does make a point of kind of summarizing why Black Canary like sort of signed up for this. And you know, between the first page with the flashbacks, and then there's another page later when she's asking Deathstroke why he joined up. But you know, it's not just the money. Like, that's like, you've got tons of money now. You don't need to do this for the money. There's a panel showing that this is Oracle asking her to investigate Trust to find out who they are. And yeah, the end of the issue also plays into the mystery of, okay, who are Trust really? Who are they working for? Clearly they're dodgy, but
another acronym organization in DC.
But it tells you what you need to know if you are just reading this as an issue 1. It doesn't leave you hanging if you haven't read that story. So that is neat. So they're looking for the queen bee.
Yep.
And when they get to this suburban house, Deathstroke's got this ridiculous minigun thing that he's walking about with.
Yeah.
It's huge. And they find her, and she's making jars of honey. And then she fires honey at them. And she's like a proper monster, right? She's a proper honey monster. Not to be confused with the Sugar Puffs mascot.
Honeycomb, I thought. Who's the Sugar Puffs mascot?
Sugar Puffs? The honey monster.
Yeah. Is that... Hold on. This is news to me. I know the honeycomb monster from the 90s, who's like your craving for honeycomb come to life.
Sugar Puffs. Is Sugar Puffs a thing in the US?
I mean, yeah, but I don't think we have the same mascot.
It's definitely.
Oh my god! Yeah, no, we do not have this.
Yeah, you see the monster on the cover.
I'm looking now.
The
By
cover
the way,
of the
there's
box.
an ad mascot wiki.
Yeah.
That just took me to. Oh, there's no picture of him.
Yeah.
Keep talking. I'm gonna look up the honey monster. I thought you were just saying that as a general term. That's his name.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't making it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I have never seen he would be my favorite. If people don't know, it looks like a yellow version of Gritty, the mascot for the Flyers. This guy, I want to hug him.
Sugar Puffs are delightful cereal, but yes. And we even see like it's like she's building drones out of people. She's got like these like weird kids with big bug eyes, big bee eyes, and a dad who's just a honey machine with a faucet coming out of his chest.
Quite ghastly.
Yeah,
on that one.
So it's very body horror. Like, you could easily see this being a David Cronenberg movie if it was just a bit darker. So and then one of the kids turns into a giant like bee, maybe robotic, maybe not. It's hard to tell, to be honest.
Yeah, they kind of form together, right? Like,
oh, you're right. Yeah, they do. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they kind of form. Yeah, it's like a transformer or not a transformer, like a Voltron style bee.
Yeah.
Out of weird bee things. So Black Canary, like they deal with everything. They're running from the honey and all that, and there's like rivers of it and blah blah blah. But when they get outside and they've subdued things, Canary intentionally fries the equipment for a bit with her stream, so she can like have a 1-to-1 with Deathstroke and ask why he's actually really here. They do a funny fake out here where he says he's dying and then just says, "Ha, got you." But he's basically saying, like, you know, I've done a lot of bad things, and you know, maybe I should try the good guy thing for a while again. So how genuine his being's open for debate, but it does feel a bit more genuine here.
I do like the version of Deathstroke. It's like, I'll be good if you pay me enough. Like, I don't have to be a bad guy, but if they pay me more, I'm going to do bad guy stuff. So I do like the, you know, money is a part. Because what do they say? The 6 words that got him there.
Well, yeah, right? But I think that's not what this is, though. This is him saying when he's asked. I mean, whether or not he's telling the truth is another matter. But when he's asked here at the end, he's basically saying, "You're right. Yeah, I don't really need the money anymore." But you know, he basically thinks about his family, and it's one of the things earlier on in the issue when he walks into the house, he has like his own little flashback of like, you know, at the dinner table with his family. So he knows he's a bad guy, but he wants to try doing good for a bit and see if it sticks. So I think this is actually, for once, again, taking him at his word here, and it's debatable if he should, but I think this is him for once actually. It's almost a twist that he actually is just trying to do something good for a change, when that's normally not. Because everyone just assumes he's been Deathstroke. So, fun stuff. So the epilogue scene, though, the leader of Trust here. When I say the leader, I mean the one who we see running things, not necessarily the.
Right, because we still don't know much about this organization.
Yeah, we don't know who the real person behind this is, but.
Right.
You know,
what's her name?
You know, she's talking to someone saying they're going to go after villains, gain trust of the heroes so they'll be unstoppable. But obviously the heroes are just pawns in whatever they're doing. Whatever their actual goal is, whatever their agenda is, we don't know at this point.
Right.
But there's kind of a teaser, the last page. It's like a coming this season on Deathstroke Inc. And it's like just 3 panels to tease things. It teases Black Canary and Deathstroke in space. It teases them doing some weird supernatural like House of Mysteries or something like that. And then it teases Damien showing up and yelling, "You killed him," at Deathstroke. So who's Deathstroke possibly killed? We'll find out. I don't know.
Yep. No, I like this. Also, it has who I'm assuming is Deathstroke yelling, "I hate space." Yeah, it is him.
Yeah.
I hate space, which I think is fun.
That seems on brand for Deathstroke.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose the question, which we've not really said much of, is did you like Deathstroke Inc. issue 1?
Yeah, I did a lot. It's a lot of. Now, we'll see how busy the weeks are. I might just wait for this to be collected and go through it. Because if it's on a busy week, I don't know if it would, make the cut. But I enjoyed it enough.
I had fun with it. I think Black Canary is such a good addition. I do like Deathstroke as a protagonist on his own is a little bit hard to deal with. I think having Black Canary especially Black Canary, who's in like sort of classic Birds of Prey mode, where she's like here working for Oracle kind of stuff, is a really nice addition. So I'll see. I'm definitely reading issue 2. I want to see where the story goes and how it sort of starts to play out, because this story is kind of a one and done. I'm sure the fact that they have now kidnapped the Hive Queen and they're going to get something out of her is going to play into wherever it's going. Well, but otherwise, this issue is a very standalone thing where they accomplish the mission and they fly off at the end, and then there's a little epilogue to tease some stuff. But I'm curious to see what it's going to be like more issue to issue going forward after this. Are they going to be relatively continue this standalone adventure style, or is it going to be something that, I mean, it feels like it may be standalone. Given all those teasers at the end, it feels like that could just be 3 different issues coming up.
Could be.
So we'll see. Yeah. What did you think of the art?
I like it. I mean, it's Howard Porter. I mean, it kind of fits the zany style. So, like, if this was supposed to be like a typical Deathstroke book that plays with the shadows and the darkness, I don't think it would fit. But for it being like this madcap kind of adventure with bee creatures and a honey spout coming out of a dude, I think it fits.
Yeah, I don't think I was expecting this to be as zany and pulpy as it ended up being, but you're right, the art style fits that. So it's the sort of thing where maybe at face value Howard Porter seemed like a weird choice for what the name implies is just a Deathstroke book, but once you get into it, it's like, okay, there's a concept here, clearly there's a game plan and a story to tell with whatever Williamson's doing. Much like Robin, it feels like there's a game plan for at least the first big chunk of it. So yeah, no, I'm definitely in for issue 2, I think. Matt, what are you giving issue 1?
I'll give this a 7.5.
I don't want to I'll go straight 7. I'll go straight 7.
There you go.
Even though you're the one who's more hesitant to the sounds of it to read more of it, but
well, no, again, I'll read more of it, but I know on a busy week, I'm not gonna rush, to if I have other stuff going on. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't describe this as a busy week, but then I wasn't reading 2 Bendis books, so
right. But that's the whole thing. If I have Justice League fall off, then for sure I'll read this.
All right, cool. Well, every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, patrons at some of the higher tiers can make myself or Connor read a book. And I have 2 September books to catch up on, so I'm going to knock those out just now. American Vampire Survival of the Fittest, issue 2. Is the first of these, and obviously Matt always likes to sing the praises of this miniseries.
Yeah, it's my favorite American Vampire. It might be my favorite Scott Snyder work if I had to, off the top of my head. Some of his Batman I really enjoy. Court of Owls is good, but yeah, no, this is tops.
Yeah, I think I would describe American Vampire as my favorite Scott Snyder stuff in general. I don't know if I'd pick this necessarily as my favorite part, but it's a very good part. The opening scene of this issue is a dream sequence, a nightmare sequence even, with Felicia in the bath, getting out, hearing a noise. It's all very kind of, it might be sexy, she's naked and the shadows are covering things. It's going for kind of that vibe. Skinner Sweet shows up, and all of this is basically just this idea that Skinner's always a part of her because he's in her blood. And she goes to kill herself so she doesn't have to live with Skinner, and then she wakes up on the plane, which is she's on with Cash. They're on their way to, I think it's Romania, on this mission to get this doctor who's working for the Nazis, who might indeed have a cure for the vampire disease. So yeah, and that's kind of your setup, and they kind of, he tries to ask her about it, she doesn't want to talk about the nightmare. And they talk about their aliases and what they're pretending to be. They're there as sympathizers, that they're going to like fund the regime, all that stuff. Just good character setup and good sort of fun. Then they get shot out of the sky because the pilot doesn't have the right landing codes, and they're very touchy about that apparently. Cash is able to land the plane, and a nice little 2-page layout, which deals a lot of, it does this thing where because it's trying to sell the landscape, where there's a nice long 2-page horizontal panel at the top of the plane on fire, and then the landing in the snow was a big horizontal panel, And then the bottom panel is basically, again, another long horizontal panel, but it's split up into like 4 panels. And it gives you the sense of the momentum of the plane slowing down in the snow as it's crash landing. Really nice stuff from Murphy, who's on the art. I don't know if I mentioned that. But from there, they get out, and would you believe it, the Nazis are already waiting for them, and Cash goes all, like, basically in character, yelling at them for doing this. Like, we're here to give you money, and you're treating us like this. But they give in to him, and they drive him to the spooky castle at the top of a mountain, which is where the scientist is being held. The scientist is excited to meet them. He's kind of this sort of nervous Einstein type character. And he shakes Cash's hand, and he passes him a note which says, "We have to leave before tonight's meeting, or we're never going to leave alive." So they're like, "Shit, we got to do this. We got to, it's going to be a short trip." Probably the most interesting scene of the book, though, from a character perspective, is what comes next, which is they're getting ready for this fancy, it's a presentation the Nazis are going to show them. And he's got like a nice tux on, she's putting a fancy dress on, and they're joking about where they're hiding their guns because they're what they're wearing. And when he like zips her up, and it kind of feels like it might get romantic for a second. When he's zipping her up, he mentions that he knows how to do this because he used to do it for his wife. And this moment lets her open up because she basically feels some sympathy for him, knowing his backstory, knowing what happened to his, what's happened to his kid, and she was obviously involved in that arc of the book. She opens up and says it was about Skinner's Suite, the nightmare. It was about Skinner's Suite. She opens up and says that she's terrified that he'll always be a part of her, and then brings up what happens to his son and apologizes for her part in it, and says that she thinks about it every day. That guilt lingers with her. And they have this moment where they just kind of hug, and it veers away. It's almost like it's like a romantic moment because it's kind of sexy. He's zipping up her thing, and they're standing there, and they're in this very big, posh bedroom. But it shifts away from that to just them hugging in like a sort of more genuine kind of embrace, where it's more about the horror and the trauma they've both been through, and like why they're here. So it actually strengthens the relationship, where they go from being these kind of estranged colleagues to having this bond with each other, which is really kind of nice. But the end of the issue is them going down into this room, and it turns out all the people who are here for this meeting, which might not be exactly what they claimed it was, is an army of Nazi vampires, and that is our big final full-page spread.
I hate those guys.
It's a really good panel. Obviously it's a horrific visual. I really like the colouring in this issue, where it really kind of avoids having red except the flags, just so they always stick out a lot. So really nice touch, because I'm actually, I'm looking through the entire book to see if that holds true, and there almost is no red, other than a bit of blood when the pilot's head's blown off. There is no red except the swastika flags, and I think that's a really nice touch. And there's one sound effect which is written in red text, but I mean that's it. Other than that, it's all whites, browns, and beiges. You really get this sense. I think the fact that Cash is wearing a white tux, in this last part as well, really adds to that, where it's like a very specific color scheme. Technically, some of the soldiers I think are wearing green, but it's such a muted green that it's basically grey. So the red on their armbands really sticks out. So the art really does a good job of that. And there's probably the most swastikas of all in that last page. There's just banners all up the walls when you get this page, and you can see the armbands in all of these vampires. It really kind of... It's basically a kind of a simple thing where obviously they're undercover, they're infiltrating. That final page, because you've not seen that much red until that final page, and the red represents the Nazis, all of a sudden it feels like they're surrounded, and that's literally what the ending is. It's that they realize they're in a room surrounded by an entire army, and they're really in the shit. So the visuals kind of really play to that, because it's been building up the entire time that there's only just little bits of red, and then here you are at the end, surrounded by that red. So smart colouring, smart art choices, good issue, good character stuff. It is a comfortable 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
so
I love Cash. So good. Such a good character.
Comfortable 9 out of 10 for me. So that is American Vampire. And hold on. Other Patreon book is Animal Man, issue 12. And if you remember last issue, it was Animal Man and Vixen. They get trapped by Ahmed Ali, I think is the name of the character. And his kind of like foot soldier with animal powers, Taboo. Was it? Yeah, Taboo. Maybe I'm mispronouncing that slightly, but yeah. So the aliens were kind of like fixing Animal Man's powers seemingly in last issue, and then we saw like Ellen not know anything, I think, about her kids, where it was like she'd forgotten they existed, and it was like really weird, like what's going on. So some of that is answered this issue. You have to read between the lines for a little bit of it, I think.
Okay.
But Animal Man, so the bad guys put them in this room where there's like no connection to any animals, so that they won't have powers, or specifically so that Animal Man won't have powers. And then Animal Man starts duplicating himself, and basically uses like an army of himself to like fight the bad guys, and leaves. There's a great panel of like the main bad guy kind of like going stop, and he's sort of got his fists in there like, no, damn you, Animal Man. He basically says to Vixen that there was bacteria on the bad guy, so that's what he mimicked. He sensed the bacteria and replicated, and it's like, okay, all right, very fancy. But obviously this implies that his powers are coming back. And they find Vixen's totem, and they're leaving. Vixen plants a bomb, so there's a great big full page spread of the explosion going off behind them, with them running from the building. And Animal Man like sort of feels like his powers are back. You know, there's a truck coming with some bad guys in it. He uses the strength of an elephant to flip it over, and then he picks up Vixen and flies away. But obviously, pick your bird. He never specifies, but pick your bird.
Right.
And it's like, hey, I'm getting good at this superhero thing. But the other big thing in the last issue was the mysterious thing that was being dug up by the bad guy. He had the army of like henchmen or slaves kind of digging up this big thing, some sort of technodrome style thing at the bottom of this big dig out. And so things get kind of wacky here. There's a great page though where the villain's kind of like vowing, Ali's vowing that he's going to go after them, and the building they're in's like catching fire because it's like next, either connected to or attached to the building with the bomb in it, and he gets surrounded by fire as he's saying like, they will pay, they will die, they will, and the fire's starting to surround him more and more as he says this. Really good stuff. But Animal Man, like, they see this light coming from this big hole in the ground, and they go over, and Animal Man just decides to jump in, like he feels like he has to. So he jumps in. Meanwhile, Ali gets into his tank, which has got like a big lizard head on it for reasons. I won't get into it. But Animal Man, he's walking through the weird ship that's down there, and it turns out the aliens that made him are down here, right? And they always kind of were. They've been here for 10,000 years, but occasionally they go up and use what do you call it? They use this technology, the mainframe or whatever they call it, to go up top. And they even mention later on that they've actually given like animal powers to other people. They've given certain things. They've rewritten history, and we get into some really meta stuff in a minute. But before I get to that, though, I should mention that while this is all going on, the bad guy shoots a witch doctor. There's a witch doctor who's basically claiming all this was going to happen, and this is a dangerous thing. He shoots him right in the forehead, in a really sort of stark moment. But he tries to go down after it, and Vixen jumps down as well because she has to. So Vixen ends up fighting Taboo down there, which is really weird because they end up just sort of fighting so long they get tired and just kind of like stop fighting. It's kind of an interesting fight scene. It just kind of sells how long it goes on whilst everything else with Animal Man's happening. But they basically explain to Animal Man that something weird was going on because of Crisis, and that his continuity didn't make a whole lot of sense. Because he was much older beforehand and now he's much younger, and yet his history still remains intact. So it sounds like when Ellen's like weird continuity stuff was happening in last issue, what I'm getting from this is that wasn't happening because of what they were doing. That was happening because that was something that was coming anyway because of the weird continuity problem. And basically they fixed Animal Man's powers, or the way they fixed him originally, right? The reason he got powers is because he actually technically died when the ship exploded in his face in his origin story, but they saved his mind and rebuilt him from the ground up. They rebuilt his body, and effectively, to fix his powers, they just did the same thing. They killed him and rebuilt his body, so now his powers are fixed. But to fix his continuity, they have to strap him into a machine, and he has to use his own memories to kind of reinstate his loved ones. So he does. That's what happens. This all sounds super high concept, but it bizarrely makes sense in the moment. You kind of understand it, right? As long as you have a vague idea of, crisis and continuity being changed, this all kind of makes some amount of sense, which is really, really weird. And sure enough, he kind of thinks about his origin, and it kind of fixes things. I'd have to go back and check the previous versions of seeing some of these panels from the previous issues that have shown them before, but I think it might have changed the age of Ellen to be younger, to sort of reestablish the idea that they're younger in this new continuity. So yeah, that stuff's really interesting. Really quality stuff. There's a lot of stuff the Alien says though about it's almost like they keep an archive of everyone, and that's not the word they use, but there's a lot of that going on. The bad guy Ali gets down here though, and he's like, "Hey, this is my ship now. I found it. I dug it up. This is all mine." And he shoots an alien in the head. It does nothing. The wound just heals immediately. And the alien just waves his hand and says, "You're nothing but a minor character, an old-fashioned melodramatic beast forgotten. Your story ends here." He waves his hand, and the comic book basically devolves. And what I mean by that is, do you see the bad guy and then all the color goes away, so it's just a line drawing? And then the next panel, it's more of a sketch, and you can even see the lines in the bubble where the lettering was written on. And then it's an even rougher sketch, and then it's just a stick figure. It's like it sort of went back through the stages of a comic book until he disappeared. So this is what I mean, where that meta stuff starting to really come into it when he's wiped out of existence here. The other thing though is they say Animal Man that something big's coming, terrible times are coming. Be strong and be careful, and beware. And then the issue basically ends there. Animal Man and Vixen are back up top. All the soldiers are down, and she's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I think the good guys won," but he's not sure. And that's the end of this issue. So we haven't actually seen Ellen and the kids yet. I'm sure maybe seeing them again is going to be maybe a big deal, because maybe there'll be some differences, or maybe it'll just be a tease until it confirms that they're okay and they're back to normal or whatever. But it does say next Hour the Beast, and Buana Beast's mask is there. So Buana Beast is back next issue, which should be exciting. I think it linked his helmet and stuff even to these aliens as well from further back in history. So very curious to see how that stuff shakes out. But all of this fixing Animal Man, basically you were broken because of Crisis and the continuity didn't quite add up, so we're here to fix it. And literally having him use his memories and using his memories of his loved ones to reinstore. It's kind of sweet in a way, but also super meta and weird and wonderfully contrived in a way that Grant Morrison can only do. So fair play. There's some fun stuff before
wonderfully contrived.
Yeah,
the Grant Morrison story.
But there is some fun stuff before that. I like them dealing with the bad guy, the fight between Vixen and the henchwoman, the use of the animal powers again. There's a lot of fun stuff before then, but once he gets down and talks to the aliens, it actually gets really bizarre in that way that is kind of fun. But it does make sense for the most part. If anything, just the way the alien speaks is a little bit hard to follow occasionally, because he's using all he's just speaking in kind of a weird tongue. But solid stuff though. I'm the run's interesting. I'm always kind of a little bit concerned with Grant Morrison. He's always going to go a little bit too weird. But so far that has not happened, and the weirdness has been built to, and it's been kind of spaced out enough that you can sort of take it on each on its own merit, and you can follow the story. So that's good stuff. So no, I enjoyed it. I would happily give this an 8.5. So that is Animal Man issue 12. And that'll take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite cover, favorite art, top 5 books. and I only read 5 new books, so all my books will appear. None of them suck though, so I guess it's not that bad a thing either. So, Matt, your favorite panel
Clearly
slash
somebody
moment?
didn't read Justice League.
Clearly, I did not.
Yeah. It's gonna be from Action Comics, and it's gonna be Superman and Lois. Just that of them up against the sky with the moon in the background.
Oh sure, yeah,
really good.
As far as that moment goes, I prefer the previous page, but yeah, I can't fault too much. I think I might. Yeah, I think I might have to pick the earlier scene in that book, the Superman running in and saving by like sort of taking the pain from her, because I genuinely thought she was about to like die, and that was going to be motivation for him. So it really felt like it convinced me that that was going to happen. Then what he did instead was, and then the fact that that also connects to him basically is telling Mongol, like, you know, this is over. I'm coming. Like, you don't scare me. So all of that combined makes that moment a really kind of fist pumping, special Superman thing. So good stuff. Favorite cover of the week, Matt? What you got?
Also from Action Comics, it's the variant. Not sure who did it because it's not listed on the thing. I'd have to search, but the Action variant's really good. It's Clark and Lois on there.
I actually prefer I prefer the regular cover of Action.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, I had a few pick. There is a Matina cover for Deathstroke, but I'm not going to pick it. I actually really like both the regular and the Wanted cover for Detective. So I think I'm going to go with the Wanted cover, which is Huntress in this case. I think it's really neat. The fact that there's also a Behermo variant for Detective that I didn't even mention, I'm just mentioning as an afternote, is maybe says how Detective just had 3 good covers this week. So, but I'm going to go with the Huntress one. I think that's really nice. I like the regular one a lot though as well, so it's good stuff. But and shout out to Robin for having a nice cover too. So player covers to pick from this week, which is nice. What's your best art of the week?
So as easy it would be for me to go Sempere for Action. I can never say it.
Melnikov.
I have to Melnikov for Robin.
Melnikov
was my favorite. There you go. I always want to swap around the N and the K, and it messes me up. Melnikov.
I feel like you did something different there, though. You sort of missed out a whole syllable where you said it the first time.
Let me look. I have to read it. No, it's Melnikov.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said that.
No, I know, but I always want to make it. Yeah. I got it. That guy, Gleb. I'll just call him Gleb from now on.
Yes. Gleb, Mr. Gleb. Okay, so my art of the week. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of solid art. I don't know if there's one that stands out to me as being head above the others. Because I think everything had pretty solid art. I'm probably going to go. I'm probably going to go with Action because there's some specific moments that I think really stood out, and I was really impressed with the storytelling that the art was able to sort of handle on its own. But Detective was really good. Obviously, we mentioned Melnikov. So, yeah. But I'll go with Action, I think, overall. All right. Top 5 books, Matt.
So I'm going to go number 1, Action. Number 2, Robin. Number 3, Detective. Number 4, Superman, Son of Kal-El. Number 5, Deathstroke.
All right, I'm going to go number 1. I wasn't struggling to remember what the first number was. I was just pausing.
Sounds like you kind of were, though.
I was just stalling while I think, because it's a very even keeled week. What did I rate things? I feel like I did some 8.5s. I did some 8s. So I am going to go with Action Comics at number 1. I will say Detective at number 2, Robin at number 3, Superman Son of Kal-El at number 4, Deathstroke Inc. at number 5. That's my top 5. So there you go. I will tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics, where I'll be swapping Matt for Connor for a week. Sorry, commiserations to everyone. I know it's sad news. But Matt will be back the week after. But next week we have Batman 114, so Death State, Fear State rolls on. We also have Nice House in the Lake issue 5, that should be a fun one. Swamp Thing issue 8, also big. Suicide Squad issue 8, Arkham City, The Order of the World. I am pumped to try that one out, based on everything we've seen and heard about it from the solicits. Batman The Adventure Continues season 2 issue 5, Justice League Infinity issue 4, Joker Presents a Puzzle Box issue 3, Crushing Lobo issue 5, Wonder Woman 80th anniversary 100-page super spectacular. I forgot this thing existed.
Shh, so did I.
That was a surprise when I got to that. I didn't remember that was coming. Are You Afraid of Darkseid issue 1, which is also a 100-page style book. This is the horror, the annual Halloween scary story anthology, which I have to admit I'm maybe more excited about that than I am the Wonder Woman one. But I mean, that said though, if I look at the creative teams in Wonder Woman, that might sway me. Conjuring the Lover issue 5, Soul Plumber issue 1, that's the new DC horror book, which I am definitely going to check out. Can't speak for Connor, but I am definitely going to have a look at it. And then Man Magazine issue 22. So it's not actually a super packed week, but there are 2 huge sized books that I will probably release one of. So we'll see how that goes. But that's what's coming next week from DC Comics. So
fun times.
Look forward to that. But yeah, I will take this time now to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Bordenau, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley.
Excelsior.
Not Stanley. That is our Patreons for the month. You can support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month. And the $5 tier in particular, you get early access to the show by a day. So go and have a look and see if you're interested in supporting the content and help keep all the stuff coming. You can support us for free as well, of course, by simply hitting the like button on YouTube, subscribing, commenting. Or for the audio versions, rate the podcast 5 stars and give us a nice review. iTunes has that, Podcast Addict has that, some other ones do too as well. So all those things help. Spread the word on social media. You can get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, so go and check out that. But otherwise, that is pretty much it. That is the show. So this one's just over 2 hours. This is the shortest one in a while, so mission accomplished.
We did it.
Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
And you can't kill the boogeyman.